Thank you for joining Orange County Realtors Global Business Alliances for our online session on Belize. First of all, I would like to thank our wonderful Vice Chair, Mary, and our committee liaison, Feng, for their dedication and hard work all year long so far to put together this annual Global Week events. And also to thank our persevering and very energetic task team members, including Cindy, Floor, Fozzie, Kate, Lorette, Rana, Reem, and Tina for your work as well too. Thank you. So we, at the end of the webinar today, we're going to have 2 raffle prizes from Orange County Realtors to give off, and also possibly one from our wonderful speaker, Mr. Mike Cobb. So
absolutely.
very nice to have you here. And thank you for joining us to talk about Belize. So let's get this webinar started, and let me give a little background on Mike. If you have any questions, please save it for later in the session, and you can type it in the webinar chat for us. Mr. Mike Cobb is the founder and CEO of ECI Development. It's a leading force in international real estate. Since 1996, he has led the charge in creating dynamic residential communities across Central America, including Belize, Nicaragua, Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras, and El Salvador. His developments range from private villas, tiny homes, Marriott residences and resorts in Belize, offering diverse options and resort-style living. Michael's expertise extends beyond real estate development. As a former expat himself, he lived in Nicaragua for 14 years with his young wife and daughters, so he understands the nuances of purchasing property abroad and providing invaluable support to both overseas investors and expatriates. His insights, detailed in his book, How to Buy Your Home Overseas and Get It Right the First Time, can save thousands of dollars and ensure property investments are successful. Michael's influence extends to the financial sector as well. He founded Exotic K International, which evolved into International Bank, revolutionizing in mortgage services in Belize and throughout the region. His contributions to real estate and finance are complemented by his role as a sought-after speaker and consultant, which was covered in Forbes, Business Week, the London Telegraph, and BBC World Television. With a strong presence also on LinkedIn and Facebook, Michael continues to inspire us as a keynote speaker at major conferences and events. Under his leadership, ECI Development has amassed over 4,000 acres of beachfront real estate across Belize, Nicaragua, Panama, Costa Rica, and is expanding also into Argentina, Chile, and Ecuador. The company's portfolio includes a Marriott resort in Belize and a Best Western in Belize. Mike can assist clients in purchasing secondary residencies and investments through reforestation visas, antique member ownership, and successful transition to the expat life. So now, let me transition over and let Mr. Mike Cobb teach us a little bit more about Belize. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Christina. That was a mouthful. We got to come up with a much shorter bio. Oh my goodness.
Well, I
Anyway,
wanted to include all the your experience and expertise. So
well, thank you. You know, it's been a great, 33 years I've been working in the region, and it's been tremendous. And we've certainly, helped a lot of folks make the transition overseas from a lifestyle perspective. Whether it was owning properties, but also on our finance side of things as well with our mortgage company and bank. So, these things all kind of hang together, right? But what I'd like to do today, if it's okay, is, I'm going to talk about some really big ideas, and then we're going to kind of end up with a case study of Belize, and we'll drill down into Belize towards the end, because my biggest premise of really trying to convey, I guess, important concepts is we need to start with the why. Why are things happening? And then how can we as real estate professionals, realtors, actually make a difference in the lives of our clients, right? And then we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what do we do, right? So it's the why, the how, and then the what. Belize is maybe a where. It's not the only where, of course, but these are sort of the big questions, and we kind of go from the big to the focused. And so let me go ahead and I'll just share my screen, and we're going to start with the big ideas. And I always I like I like this concept because it's it's really two big ideas, I guess. And here we go. We're going to jump in to the meat of it. You know, we as real estate professionals have a duty to serve our clients. That's why we're in business. We're independent business people. We're in business for ourselves, and we serve others. And we have clients who really need us. The problem is they don't know that they need us. And we'll look at some of the examples of why they need us, but also why they may not think they need us. And Christina, you mentioned a raffle, and we always like to do a raffle. If you want to enter this, all you do is send us an email, realtor@ecidevelopment.com, and just say free week registration or something like that in the subject line. What I'll do is I'll gather those up. We'll put them into some kind of random thing that generates a winner, and then we'll send it over to you, Christina, so you can notify the winner. We'll notify them as well. But send us an email to realtor@ecidevelopment.com, and we'll put you in the drawing, and we'll draw a winner. Um, Resources for your client, they're available. We'll get back to this in a minute. I've been doing this a long time. We established ECI in 1996, which is 29 years ago. And I did move to Nicaragua. This is my wife, Carol, and my daughter, Amanda. She was 2 when we moved there. And the reason I kind of bring this up is, it's one thing to talk about something. It's another thing to have lived it, to have actually packed up a container, shipped it to a foreign country, gotten to the country, dealt with the inbound customs, not getting your stuff for several weeks because it was held up in customs and all kinds of nonsense, and then transitioning to a life overseas, and what that really means in terms of everything from the, how do you rent a house, how do you get your utilities hooked up, right? I mean, and where's the grocery store, who's your lawyer, how do you set up a bank account, just on and on and on, everything that kind of comes with life. And having done it as a family, we bring a lot more information and a lot more relevance to the conversation with people who are wanting to do the same kinds of things. We had another little daughter, Emily, you can see there in the picture, came along, and sometimes people ask me, they say, well, Nicaragua, what was that like? Well, you know what? It was really the best of both worlds. My girls got to grow up hanging out in the cloud forest, and seeing howler monkeys, and going to the beach and camping out on the beach, and releasing baby turtles back into the ocean, and conservation programs, right? So we had sort of all of the Nicaraguan kinds of things, but we also had many of the traditional U.S. kinds of things there. I grew up near Pittsburgh, so my daughters grew up Steeler fans, and we would watch the football games and eat wings, and they were in Girl Scouts, right? I mean, people think Nicaragua, like Girl Scouts. Yeah, they were in Girl Scouts. And they also both were in dance programs. And so we had this incredible lifestyle, and it was 14 years. And so we bring that personal experience to the table when we start to talk about how we as a development company, but also how I as a speaker and presenter can bring relevant information to you that you can then take to your clients. And relevant is really the key. And so what I want to do is I want to start with these two really big ideas. And the first is this one, the remote revolution. And this statement on the screen right now is a huge statement, right? I mean, think about it right now, but here it is. For the first time in human history. I mean, that's a big statement, right? For the first time in human history, work and the location of work have been decoupled for a huge number of workers, right? Think about that. Work and the location of work have been decoupled for massive number of workers. And if we go all the way back to caveman times, right? You had to be there to kill the animal and pick the berries, right? And then society really took this big leap forward, the agricultural revolution, right? They said, we can put fences around the animals, and we can put the plants in rows to make it easier to pick and harvest, right? So it's called a revolution for a reason, right? It was revolutionary. And then in the late 1700s into the early 1800s, we had this thing called the Industrial Revolution. And people fled, farms into the cities, but they still had to be there, and, in the factory to work the machines, right? So they were still connected to work physically. And then in the late 60s, early 1970s, right, this new word started to get thrown around, this idea of a post-industrial revolution. And John Nesbitt and Megatrends and Toffler, these guys wrote these books, and Future Shock being one of them. And it was this kind of revolutionary insights of like how life was going to be. They were futurists. They were talking about this great post-industrial future, but 50 years of, from the late 60s until, just a few years ago, people sat in traffic every day, 2 hours to work, 2 hours home from work, or however much commute time to do this. Well, why do you have to sit in traffic for an hour or two each way every day to do this or do this? You don't, right? You don't. But there was a reason. And the reason was that it was a management style that was industrial overlaid on a post-industrial technology, right? The boss is simply saying, if I can't see you, I don't know if you're working. And the employee, he says, well, I can do this from home, right? Saying, but I can't ask to work from home because then they won't give me a raise, or they won't give me the promotion, or maybe they'll fire me, right? And so you had this system locking people into this physical location. And then all of a sudden, COVID happens. And it wasn't COVID, but it was the government's reaction to COVID, stay home, essential travel only. That broke the industrial management model, overlaying the technology that would allow us to be free from a location. And so for the first time in human history, work and the location of work were decoupled fully for a vast number of workers. And if you can work from home, you can absolutely make home someplace awesome. And I'll pause here just for a moment to talk about why this slide carries so much impact. Our business, 29 years, for the first 25 years of our business, we served retirees. We served the person, or pre-retirees, but people generally in their 60s, who were saying, you know what, I want to move to Belize or Costa Rica or Panama. I want to move somewhere, warm, cost of living is lower, whatever we were talking about at the beginning, Christina, right? Lots of reasons people are moving overseas. But I have to wait till I retire because I have a job that I have to drive to every day to do, right? And so for the first 25 years of our business, it was retirees. But now all of a sudden, yes, it's digital nomads, it's younger people, but where we're really seeing the action and where you as realtors can get involved are people who are in their 50s maybe, but late 50s, early 60s, who aren't ready to retire yet. But in their mind, they've kind of always said to themselves, when I retire, I'm moving to Belize. I'll pick on Belize today because we're going to talk about it. I want to move to Belize because I love to fly fish. I love to dive. I love the water, whatever it is, right? And in their mind, they always said, well, I can't do that until I retire. But the reality is today, many people can move to Belize. They can work all day. They can go fly fishing in the morning or in the evening, on the weekends, whatever they want to do. They can move sooner. And this is where the action is. People are doing it. People are making their home someplace awesome. And they're moving to where they were going to retire, but they're doing it much, much sooner. And so we need to be paying attention to that. This is why this big idea of remote revolution is so important for us in the real estate industry. And by the way, it doesn't have to be overseas. It could be people moving from Orange County to other places in the US, of course, right? But they can move sooner. And this is extremely relevant, right? And one of the things that we're finding is that drives this migration is community. We're going to talk more about community when we get to it. But if we just look at the sexy stuff, right? I'm moving overseas. I'm going to do rafting. I'm going to ballooning. I'm going to hang out and play golf by the ocean, right? I'm going to be hiking with my friends in the rainforest. I'm going to be out on the water. Oh gosh, fishing, fly fishing, deep sea fishing, diving, snorkeling. Whoa, what the heck is that? Margarita madness, right? People get excited. People are emotional. They love to fly fish. They love to dive. They love to hike in the jungle, and I'll pick on Mexico just for a minute because it's where a lot of it has happened. It's happening other places too, right? But you got people who are down in Cancun for a great vacation. They're walking down the beach and they just swam in a cenote, right? I mean, they just swam at the bottom of a cave, right? A sinkhole, right? They're having the time of their life and they're walking down the beach and the developer says, hey, come on up here, come up here, take a tour of my project up here, 30, 40 minutes, and I'll buy you dinner at Senior Frogs tonight. Well, here they are celebrating the condo they just bought at Senior Frogs, okay? So this is margarita madness. This is not how we buy real estate in the US. It's not how we transact as prudent consumers, right? But this is what happens overseas. And it's sad because, sometimes that condo might be perfect for folks who fall into the margarita madness or the home or whatever it is they're buying. But sadly, many times it's not. And so we as real estate professionals can help our clients. And if you just simply look at that statistic right there, 1 in 10, by the way, this is a pre-COVID number. The 1 in 10 is a pre-COVID number. The new data, I'm searching, scrubbing, trying to get new post-COVID data. It's not out there, best I can tell. Pre-COVID, 1 in 10, it was actually 11.6%, but 1 in 10 of the clients you already serve, you've listed their home, you've sold their home, they're in your network, you've met them at a cocktail party, you have their business card, they get your monthly newsletter, right? They follow you on Instagram. Well, however you're staying in touch with them, 1 out of 10 is seriously considering property overseas. Those are people you already know. Those are people that you've already invested the time and bandwidth, the money to develop a relationship with, right? They need you. And we're going to look at why they need you in a second. And so really what it boils down to is we have to help our clients understand that they need to slow down and proceed with caution because we don't know what we don't know. And our clients don't either, right? Nobody knows what they don't know, right? And when we can't. I mean, that's the bottom line. We really can't, right? But there's another element here that's really important, right? This idea of we don't compare apples and oranges. We compare apples and apples, right? But are all apples the same thing? No. And nuance is important. And we understand that, right? Not every home in the same neighborhood by the same builder is really the same thing, right? And this is where, again, our professionalism can be brought to bear to really help people understand some of these nuances, but they're important nuances, right? And so not only do we not know what we don't know, we also have to forget what we think we know because the assumptions that we bring with us are very, very dangerous. Uh, you know, and 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 here's why. Because we're moving from the land of seller beware to the land of buyer beware. And I put these colors on here for an important reason. Like seller beware, I think my next slide shows a whole bunch of consumer protection laws and agencies and regulatory bodies and advocacy groups, right? You got all this bubble of protection around us as consumers in the United States. If you sell me a lemon car, like I can return it and you have to take it back and give me my money back, right? That's seller beware. But when we go overseas, a lot of times, most of the time in the developing world anyway, we're moving to the land of buyer beware. And it's not a red stop sign, right? It's just yellow caution. Green, like lolly, lolly, la, we're going to go. Yellow, well, let's pay attention, right? Caution, right? Because, and this is Florida, right? In Florida, they're passing laws and they're passing them everywhere, right? Florida bill aims to boost HOA and condo association oversight, right? I mean, so there's a regulatory agency of some kind in Florida that's going to look over HOAs and COAs to make sure that they're running properly, the funds are being accounted for, they're being segregated, all the finances are correct, but also, that they're doing what they're supposed to do. Again, this is the bubble of protection, and here's even more, right? You have all of these different laws and agencies and regulatory regimes that protect the consumer. Seller beware. Seller beware. So when we go overseas with an assumption that like I'm in this bubble and it's all going to be good, well, you know what? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And we're going to look at some examples here in a second of why it's not in many cases. And so our job is simply this. Our job is to help our clients change how they think, right? We need to help them go, I'm leaving seller beware and I'm moving to buyer beware. The problem is we do not know as consumers coming out of the US, Canada, really how to transact in a buyer beware environment, right? We're so used to just like kind of rolling with it, right? So we have to change how we think as a consumer. So our job is to help our clients change how they think. And there's some ways to do it. We publish a free resource, right? It's free. It's free for you. It's free for your clients. It's the Consumer Resource Guide. And it has 15 questions that we as consumers, your clients, need to be asking when they buy property overseas, right? And this is question number one. Is the home or condominium plumbed for hot water in all the bathrooms? Now, California, most of the US, Canada, we just all kind of go, duh, yeah, right? So this picture is a little bit old. I took this picture maybe 12, 15 years ago. Probably should update it. But anyway, this was a beautiful condominium in Costa Rica. 3 bedroom, 3.5 bath, views of the Pacific that are $1 million views for $400,000, right? I mean, if it was in Orange County, I don't know what, certainly add a zero and maybe times two. I don't know what it would cost, right? But I mean, it'd be a lot more money than $400,000. And that's a pretty nice bathroom. I mean, it's not uber luxe or anything, but that's a really, really nice bathroom. But when you got down on your hands and knees and looked under that sink, what you saw was a cold water pipe coming out of the wall with a Y splitter so that both of the taps, it was a nice faucet, right? Both of them have water coming out of them, but they're both cold because there's only cold water service to that bathroom. And the shower was only cold water too. And so we don't know what we don't know. We don't know that we got to get down on our hands and knees and look under the sink, right? We don't know that. But we also have to forget what we think we know, the assumption, which is, oh, that's a nice bathroom. Of course it has hot water. Well, it may not, right? So is a development company financially sound? This is what that HOA bill was kind of looking at, right? Financial integrity of the association. Because I know some of you guys might remember this commercial, right? Where's the beef, right? I mean, it's so easy for a developer to talk about, we're gonna do this, we're gonna build a golf course, we're gonna build a clubhouse, we're gonna put in streets and whatever the gonna is, right? It's a promise. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen, right? Where's the beef? The much better video or much better, imagery is this one, which is show me the money. Show me the money. You're gonna build a clubhouse and tennis courts. That's great. Beautiful swimming pool. You can see the renderings. I mean, we see this all the time, right? It's gorgeous. It's $2-3 million. Fantastic. Please print your June bank statement and show me $3 million sitting there to build this gorgeous clubhouse, tennis courts, and swimming pool. Show me the money. Because you have to ask. The problem for us as consumers, your clients, our clients, right, is that they don't feel comfortable asking. What do you mean? You don't trust me? Like, why do I have to show you my bank statement? Well, in the US and Canada, somebody's looking over their shoulder, right? Somebody's looking over their shoulder saying, hey, you better have the money to build this clubhouse or you can't say you're gonna, or you can't put it in the paperwork, right? But overseas, there's no regulatory body doing that, right? So we, the consumer, our customers, have to, kind of step right up and go, show me the money. It's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable, right? And it's not how we do business. It's not how we think, but that's the part of changing how we think. And so, show me the bank statement. Show me your financials, right? We produce our financials. Somebody has to sign a non-disclosure agreement, but we send a simple 3-page NDA, right? We'll send you our financials, right? We do this all the time because we eat what we cook, right? At the bottom line. But I think this is so important for consumers to understand. And so we have to educate our consumers to look at the financial integrity of the developer or the project, or that maybe it's a hotel kind of project, right? That they're buying into. The integrity of the property is their zoning. I mean, like again, the US worked this all, most of it, it's not 100%, but it's largely worked out across the US in the 1800s and early 1900s, right? All the, title lines and, surveys, and they kind of got it worked out. But I mean, you've got situations here where you got houses that aren't even on the lots, right? It's crazy, right? Sitting in a right of way, right? And it can actually, that's sort of a property integrity thing, but this one's also important. A lack of zoning or no zoning, right? So you come along and you spend, whatever, $500,000, $1 million building this beautiful house on the Pacific Ocean, and somebody comes along and builds the Hobbit house, on the left, and you just be like, oh, well, all right, it's the Hobbit house. I mean, we'll deal, right? Well, yeah. But it's worse. It can be worse. Somebody else on your right side comes along and builds a 6-story pink lighthouse, and they turn it into an after-hours disco bar that opens up at 11:30 every night and rolls to 6 a.m., right? And you'd say to yourself, they can't do that. They can't do that. Why not? They own the dirt. They can do whatever they want. It's their land, right? See, this is where assumptions can be really dangerous, right? We just assume that they can't build a commercial business, a nightclub all night right next door, but they can, right? Again, so we don't know what we don't know, but we also have to forget what we think we know. And and so, why bother, right? I mean, like, why are people doing this if there's all these, kinds of hassles, and we don't know what we don't know? And and why do we want to bother? Because, the bottom line is, you're here today. You're paying attention. You're investing your time to be on this presentation. And what you absolutely know you can do is bring value to this outbound transaction. You might not know the how you will do it, or the what's to do it, right? Because there are certain things that we're going to talk about now that really drill into that, right? But at the end of the day, you do bring value to the outbound transaction. There's an incredible world of options, lifestyle options, price point options, just in Latin America. I like this slide because I think a lot of times people have a stereotypical view of what the tropics are, right? But at the end of the day, Latin America has an incredibly diverse set of climates and regions and geographies, right? For somebody who, look, if some clients have always dreamed of owning a home in Napa Valley or Sonoma Valley. And you know what? If you can write a check for 3-4 million bucks, go buy a home in a vineyard up there, right? But if you got 300, $400,000, like you're not buying a house in Sonoma or Napa in the vineyard, right? But you can in a place like Mendoza, Argentina, right? So you've got this wine growing region that's very affordable, like at 10 cents on the dollar. And another geography that people really, really like is this springtime all the time. That's what I call it. And in this case, Cuenca, Ecuador, it sits at about 8,000 feet above sea level, right on the equator, basically. And it's, 65 at night and 75 in the day, every day of the year, right? And it's an old colonial city, 500,000 people, beautiful old colonial city. And someone might say, well, I like the weather and I like the urban, but like a modern city. Medellin, Colombia, right? Medellin is a modern city sitting at about 4,500 feet above sea level, a little warmer, maybe, 70 at night, 80, 85 in the day, but it's still kind of like springtime all the time, right? But it's urban. And then you have somebody who says, I love the desert, I love Phoenix, but gosh, I also love the beach. Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, that's desert at the beach, right? And if somebody's looking for the Southern California climate, kind of the middle of Costa Rica, right up to the southern part of Mexico, you really have this, Southern California kind of climate, semi-tropical arid on the Pacific Ocean. And then you obviously have the stereotypical Caribbean, a place like Ambergris Key, Belize, and we'll come back to that in a minute. The other big idea that drives a lot of our buyers overseas is this idea of a time machine. And it's really, really important for us to understand, again, the motivations, the why people are looking overseas, so that we can serve them appropriately, serve them better, and really more specifically to what they are inclined to want to own for whatever reason it is they want to own it. I understand that we as real estate professionals, we're not allowed, we're not licensed to sell an investment. But we do have to understand that many, I might even say the word most, of the folks going overseas to own property overseas are doing it primarily as an investment. They might be looking at it as a place to live in 5 years, 10 years when they retire, but many of them really are looking at it as an investment. Now, we're not licensed to sell it that way, but if we understand the motivations of our client, that they are motivated by investment, then again, we can help them ask the right questions, ask better questions to understand their motivations so that they end up with a product that really suits them well. And this slide really does that. This idea of a time machine is so powerful. And when you look at the developing world, you really are looking at a time machine. And how I put the various countries on this curve was I just simply said to myself, if a young couple, I'm in Council Bluffs, Iowa, so I'm going to pick on Council Bluffs, Iowa today, right out the window, right? So if a young couple here in Council Bluffs, Iowa, or Omaha, Nebraska, right across the river, gets married on Saturday, where are they likely to go on their honeymoon? Monday. You know what? They're going to Bermuda, the Caymans, Cancun, Costa Rica, like lots of them going there. Down at the bottom, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador. Probably not too many. Here you go. I mean, you can see out the window, right? There's Omaha over there, right? I mean, not too many people from Omaha, Nebraska, when they get married this weekend, headed off to, Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador on Monday for their honeymoons. But a bunch are going to Cancun and Costa Rica and the other places, right? And so you've got this popularity factor, but popularity has real impact on investment, right? If you're looking for cash flow, you need popularity. You need honeymooners, you need vacationers, you need lots of people coming through, right? But the price you're going to pay to acquire the property is going to be much higher. A place like Honduras, Nicaragua, the prices are much lower, but the cash flow is going to be a lot less. So if you're maybe a younger couple and you want to land bank and you want to own it for 20 years, you think, well, that's probably a great place. I can acquire it for less expensive, and over time it'll do better. The other thing that this does is it also has a lifestyle component, right? If you're going to a place like Cancun, right, or anywhere on the Riviera Maya, you've got incredible amenities, right? I'm not sure what the right word is, but amenities. You've got restaurants, you've got shops, you've got all kinds of businesses that really lend to a higher state of development, right? And in countries that are emerging, it's a little rougher around the edges, right? And so if I hate to use the word high maintenance, but if you're a really high maintenance client and you like to stay at the Ritz-Carlton, you know what? You do not belong in Honduras, Nicaragua, or El Salvador, right? And if that's your client, they need to be looking at places like Bermuda, BVI, Cancun, maybe, right? On the other hand, you got people who are backpackers and they love a little rough around the edges. They're probably not a good fit for those places, but they'd be a great fit for a place like Honduras, Nicaragua, or El Salvador. So again, helping our clients understand what they're looking for and why they want it, and where in this time machine, this developing world kind of curve they might best fit, will help them immensely to get it right the first time. And the demographics, we talked about this, the 1 in 10 looking for property overseas, right? The Canadian data is actually even stronger. And again, we've been focusing on retirees, but that's really a new thing. And as we get the new data over the next couple of years, we'll be integrating it, right? But the millennials, 45%, but half of the millennials want to live and work overseas. And so again, this demographic, as they become older and more affluent, will begin to transact on real estate overseas as well. So we in the real estate business had better be ready to serve them and understand what they want and why they want it, so we can serve them better. Christina, you and I were talking about the cost of living, quality of life. You can move overseas and really have an incredible quality of life that costs a lot less. Medical care overseas is tremendous depending on where you are. But, Panama has a Johns Hopkins facility, medical care in Costa Rica, the SEMA system. Even in a country like Nicaragua, the medical care is phenomenal. And so now what we'll do is we'll drill down here, and I want to leave plenty of time for Q&A and really talk about Belize and how Belize kind of fits into these big ideas, and drill it all the way down to how we can serve the clients. Belize is a mainland country in Central America. But it's on the Caribbean, and so the Caribbean flavor there is rich and deep and very, very upfront. The population of Belize is very small, actually under 400,000 folks. But the biggest reason a lot of people pick Belize as a place to go is the English language and the common law. It's the easy button for somebody looking to go overseas that doesn't really feel comfortable in a Spanish or Brazil, Portuguese speaking environment. They're looking for the easy button, and Belize really delivers that easy button in terms of language and culture. And so we talk about, Belize, why right now? Well, on this time machine slide, Belize is right in the sweet spot of the slide. It's popular enough to cash flow, but the prices are nowhere near the prices of a place like Panama, Costa Rica, certainly not Cancun, Caymans, and Bermuda, right? But it's much more popular than a place like, say, Honduras or Nicaragua. And so these opportunities, I've been working in Belize for 33 years. We started our mortgage company there 33 years ago. And so we've watched the country move from way down at the bottom of this curve where nobody knew what it was to where it is today, which is truly in the sweet spot of the curve. Um, and we know in the real estate industry that it's always about location, location, location. The country of Belize is the picture on the left, but 70% of all the tourism revenue for the entire country comes from that tiny little island called Ambergris Caye, right? And so this is where those, apples and oranges, but apples and apples, right? Nuance is important. If somebody said, I'm going to Belize because I hear it's a great place to invest. Well, true, Belize is a great place to invest, but where in Belize is a great place to invest? Ambergris Caye, if you're looking for cash flow, look, lifestyle is lifestyle. If you want to live in the mountains, you can see there's lots of mountains. You can go have a beautiful home in the mountains, right? If you want to live, on a beach all by yourself, there's lots of beach all by yourself. But if your clients are saying, I want to invest in Ambergris Caye, I've heard about Belize, it's a great place to invest. Like, yes, that's true. But where in Belize? Ambergris Caye, 70% of all the tourism revenue for the entire country from one little island. And the country itself, again, they don't pull the statistics on region, but if you just look at the arrival data, overnight arrival data, it was growing, then COVID, and then it bounced right back. It's a popular site for TripAdvisor. The reason I like TripAdvisor is that it's users, it's people who went there and they had a great time, and they just keep rating it really, really high. And the idea of time machine is, that if you simply said to yourself or your clients, I know your clients are saying this to themselves because, I see them at conferences, all the time, right? Gosh, I wish I would have bought a condo in, Cayman Islands 20 years ago. Gosh, I wish I would have bought that condo in Cancun 20 years ago. Pick the place, right? And they're higher up on this curve, right? So everybody has 2020 hindsight, right? Ambergris Caye is the Cayman Islands 20 years ago, Turks and Caicos 20 years ago, British Virgin Islands, right? And because it's a British Commonwealth English language, it has a lot in common with the other British Commonwealth countries. Now, again, please understand, your clients most of your clients are looking at the property, say in Belize, as an investment. Primarily, again, they'll be using it as a vacation property. They probably anticipate more use when they get to retirement age, or can move down and be there more often, right? And so we had this major market shift, right? Big time market shift. And here's really what happened. When I started going there 33 years ago, I didn't even know where Belize was when my buddy asked me to go with him. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go, but where is it? Right? It was a fly fishing and scuba diving destination. If you were a serious fly fisherman or a scuba diver, you'd probably heard of Belize, but almost nobody else had. And what I saw when I was down there were basically groups of men, right? The men came down and they were fishing and they were diving. They were staying in rustic lodges, right? They were staying in really basic accommodations because they were getting up at 4 o'clock and going fishing, right? Or they were, saving their money for a third tank of air or a fourth tank of air, right? And it was almost all men with a few women, but that was it. And over 33 years, it has changed to something very, very different. It has become a popular tourist destination. Weddings, right? Groups, honeymooners, couples, families with children. We never saw families with children 33 years ago. This is a absolute market change in the business in 33 years. And and just some, now nice fine dining, right? We didn't have fine dining 33 years ago, right? We didn't have the kinds of things that we see today. Um, and and what I really want to help you understand so that you can help your clients understand is, why did this happen? What happened to make it happen, right? So what drove Belize from an extreme niche market to a vibrant tourist destination? Well, the first thing was Madonna's song. She wrote a song about Ambergris Caye, San Pedro, and it was the first time in popular culture this little island of San Pedro was really talked about in popular culture, right? And then along came Temptation Island. What a horrible show. But but it was on. I think it was on CBS. I think it was CBS, right? And all of a sudden, these couples are hanging out on Ambergris Caye, doing the Temptation Island thing, and all of a sudden, people are like, Belize, Ambergris Caye, and then Survivor. Right. And then Survivor came along and they were in Belize and a couple times in Ambergris Caye. So now we're starting to see real popular culture. But the thing that changed Belize and Ambergris Caye the most were cruise ships. When cruise ships started dropping off 3, 4, 5,000 people a day to the country, all of a sudden, mainstream travelers, cruise ship travelers are mainstream travelers, and more mainstream travelers are coming to Belize. Granted, 99.9% are getting off the cruise ship. They're doing whatever they're doing. They're getting back on the cruise ship and they're leaving. But that 0.1% or some number of those cruise ship customers say to themselves, you know what, that was a pretty cool country. I want to come back here someday. And when they do, they're looking for brands, right? They are looking for brands. They don't want to stay at Mike Cobb's hotel. Who's Mike Cobb? Like, am I going to have coffee in the room? Am I going to have water? Is there going to be Wi-Fi? Is it going to be nice? I don't know, right? So when that mainstream traveler, that cruise ship traveler, that honeymooner, right, the people that are really coming because they see it as popular culture now, right? They're looking for brands, and so whether it's Best Western, whether it's Hilton, whether it's Marriott, they've got points maybe, right? They want to use their points on vacation, and so the thing that's incredible is what we've seen from 2013 to 24, 11, 12 years. We saw the overnight arrivals go from 300,000 to 560,000, but room count only went from 7,000 to 10,000. So you had room count going up by about 30%, overnight arrivals going up by 90%. And this is just an incredible window of opportunity. And that's why Belize is in the sweet spot of this curve right now. And this is what your clients are looking at. This is what they're paying attention to. Like, wow, there's an incredible opportunity to come in and provide room inventory right now before that gap closes. And that's what we're seeing in the marketplace. And we did pick up the Marriott franchise. We have a Marriott hotel under construction to serve that, to fill that gap, right? To help fill that gap of not enough rooms, but also for the mainstream traveler who's looking for a product that they want, something that they know they can count on. Our Marriott hotel is under construction. And if you just look at the price points, 350 for an oceanfront full ownership, you own it, it's yours, it's a residence, 350 up. But that's really where Belize is at in this curve, right? Again, if you go to places like Panama, Costa Rica, Turks and Caicos, you just start to go times 2, times 3, times 4, and Belize will get there at some point as it continues to move up this popularity curve, right? But where it is today is truly in the sweet spot of the curve. And so let's look at how we can serve our clients, that 1 in 10 who we're already working with. We already know we bring value to the transaction. We can give them resources. We can give them the consumer resource guide, especially, that will help them start to change how they think. These 15 questions, like the water, like the zoning, like the developer finance, things like that, to just start to shock them a little bit, right? And be like, wow, I didn't realize I had to pay attention to that stuff. Yes, you do. Yes, you do have to pay attention to that kind of stuff, right? And so that's how we start to change their thinking, by presenting ideas and concepts that seem a little shocking, right? And that's what we want. We want them to be a little bit shocked, because it's better they get shocked on the front end, right, than go down and buy a condo and then find out that 2 of the 3 bathrooms, have a shower with cold water in it. I mean, that'll be shocking in a whole new way, right? And so how do we serve them? Well, look, it really is very simple. I'm not going to say it's easy, because there is a difference between simple and easy, right? But it truly is this simple, right? First, we have to identify, right? 1 in 10. The converse of 1 in 10 is 9 out of 10. So 90%. I actually think that that number is way off now, because that, again, those numbers are pre-COVID. I'm guessing the number's more like 25% of people are now thinking about a property overseas, and 75% aren't, right? But whatever that ratio is, we have to figure out a way to get the people who are, whether it's the 1 in 10, 2 in 10, whatever that percentage is, we have to find a way to get them to identify themselves to us, so that we can begin to provide information and ultimately serve them. The number 2, right? How do we serve them? And we'll talk about that. And then finally, when we bring value to the transaction, we serve a consumer, we actually can earn a fee. We can earn a commission or a referral fee for doing that. And that's what it's about, right? We're in business for ourselves, and we deserve to earn a living when we provide value to the transaction. And my book will certainly do this. I don't know if any of you need the book, but I'm guessing that 10 to 20% of your clients do need the book. And 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 you know what? I'm not gonna talk about that slide. Some of you might already get the joke, but it simply boils down to, if we can identify the people who need our services, whether that's with email footers, right? That's a great one, by the way, because I think we all communicate with email mostly, right? And so when we put our normal contact information, our picture at the bottom of the email, for example, and then we just put this little statement that says, if you're looking for property overseas, I can help you, right? And we just start to, every email that goes out, it's just, if you're looking for a property overseas, I can help you. And when they're thinking about it a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, they go, wow, I didn't know Mary could help me or Christina could help me. Let me click, boom, and now you're connected, right? They've identified themselves, right? That's the beautiful thing. We don't really have to identify them. Maybe we put something up on social media once in a while. We put out a Instagram or a Twitter comment or a Facebook post, right? Where we talk about just some beautiful property overseas, and we mix it up. Sometimes we're talking about France, Thailand, once in a while Belize, maybe it's Argentina, and maybe wherever it is, right? So once in a while we're just putting something up that says, hey, I can help you with the property overseas, and it's a pretty picture of southern France or something, right? And what we're doing is really putting into the minds of our network, right? The network that we've already invested time, money, bandwidth, energy to develop, right? We're just putting an idea into those minds to say, I can help you with a property overseas. And when they do, right, if it's say it's Belize and they're looking at Ambergris Caye, I would love to have a referral from you, and we pay great referral fees. But let's say that it's the France picture. You put something up southern France, and and somebody says, my gosh, I've always wanted to have a house in southern France, and you know what, we're going to retire next year, or you know what, my job allows me to work from home, and I think I want to work from France, right? You can then pick up the phone or go online, however you do it, right? You can reach out to a realtor in France, right? And the CIPS network is a great one, by the way, Certified International Property Specialist, right? So you can go on to NAR's website, you can dial into the CIPS network, you can find an international property specialist over in southern France, wherever it happens to be, in Nice or whatever, right? You can make the connection. You can introduce Bob and Susie Smith to the realtor in France, and when they transact, you have a commission referral arrangement with that realtor in France. And, Bob and Mary Smith, they got a beautiful home in Nice, France. They have a realtor over there that's taking great care of them. And you get a referral fee for having identified them and made an introduction to a real estate professional in France that will deliver the kind of service that you would deliver to Bob and Mary Smith. Because remember, Bob and Mary Smith, you might have listed their home for sale, or you might have sold them a home 20 years ago, right? So these are people you care about. And so again, the identification and the serving, right, is what we do. And our reward for doing it is the fact that we can earn a fee when we do it well and we provide that service. So I hope you all will take a look. We have a great program, by the way. It's our International Referral Network. The tools, realtor to ecidevelopment.com. If you want to look at the tools, they're generic. The tools help you identify, they help you serve. And if it's one of our properties, great. We'd love to help your client. We'd love to serve your client. But if they're looking for a property in France or Thailand or anywhere else in the world, these tools are generic. They're your tools to use to help identify the folks and then help them own the property that will be a really good fit for them. And when we do that, we all win, right? Everybody wins. And so reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And I'll hand the program back over to you now, Christina.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mike, for your presentation. And if you want to put your email inside the chat box, that way our audience can reach out to you afterwards for any additional
Yes.
questions. Reem, would you help with the Q?
Yes, thank you, Mike, for an amazing presentation. The audience can put the questions, but I think there's two already. One from Mary will the recent archaeological finding bring increased tourism?
Oh, I absolutely believe so. Anything and everything that's happening, that puts more eyeballs on a country like Belize, will increase the number of people coming. I don't know specifically, Mary, about the archaeological discovery they had, but yeah, I think anything that's out there, again, drives more recognition of a country that's still relatively unknown. I think again now many people know Belize, but it's still got a long way to go on that popularity curve to really be known by almost everybody. So yeah, I think it will help.
All right, and the question from Joyce, is there a marina for sailboats?
Not really in the north in Ambergris Key. There are some marinas in the south in a place called Placencia. Ambergris Key, the reef is maybe anywhere between a quarter and a half a mile offshore, and the water inside the reef is very, very shallow. So typically, we're not seeing very many sailboats, some catamarans, but nothing with a deep keel because the water just simply isn't deep enough on Ambergris Key. But they are building some marinas in Placencia. Which is about halfway down the country of Belize. So if you're into sailing or your clients are into sailing, that would certainly be a part of the country that they would want to look into.
Okay, thank you. One other question from Christina. What is the process of purchasing a property in Belize? Is it escrow or attorney? Should we use an agent, realtor?
Yeah, great question. There really is no escrow service outside the U.S. by and large. I mean, I think Mexico's trying to put some almost escrow. I don't think it's truly technically escrow, but funds with an attorney, that kind of thing, right? I think those are very wise and prudent measures that people should be doing. The legal systems overseas don't always offer escrow as something that's actually legally possible in what we know it as technically in the US. But yes, if we can get a third party, a reputable third party, a bank or a lawyer to hold the funds during the transaction process, that is a absolute wise and prudent move on the part of a client. And to answer the second part, yeah, Christina, I think having a realtor represent us anywhere we transact is a smart move because they know the market. They look, and I don't mean to disparage, but it's just the way it is, right? Like I've been working in Belize and Ambergris Key for 33 years, and I specifically know some of the buildings that were built with beach sand. And I don't know if you guys understand what that means, but beach sand has salt in it. And when you mix salty sand into concrete and you pour it around rebar, what happens is the salt makes the rebar rust, but it doesn't happen for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And so you build a building, it looks great out of beach sand, and in 5 or 6 years, the rusting rebar spalls and it expands and it cracks the concrete and you lose the structural integrity of a building, right? And But for the first 5 years, the building looks fantastic, right? And beach sand's a lot cheaper because it's free, as opposed to river sand that has to be brought across a bay on a barge. It has to be loaded in a truck. It has to be dug out of the ground, loaded on a truck driven to the dock, put on a barge, right? Taken off the barge into a truck, delivered to a construction site. That's a lot of handling of sand, right? But it's freshwater sand, it's clean sand, right? The beach sand is free sand. So what a local realtor will understand very clearly, a good one will, is which buildings were built out of beach sand. Because in 5 years, if you buy one of those, chances are you're going to have cracks in every post and beam in the building, right? It's going to be cracking, right? And again, there's the structural integrity issue as well. So I'm a big fan of always engaging a realtor in a transaction for many, many reasons, but especially overseas where a realtor who's been on the island, say in Ambergris Caye, for example, for 10 years, they will know which buildings were built with beach sand and which weren't. And maybe it's a small percentage, only 10% or 5% of the buildings. 1 out of 20 was built with beach sand, right? But 1 out of 20, that's probably about right. 1 out of 20 buildings was built with beach sand. And you don't know it if you don't know it. So yeah, absolutely engage a realtor in the transaction. And look, when you make the referral, you find a client who's looking for a property overseas, you make the referral to a realtor in Belize or France or wherever, right? You build the relationship. You say, look, I want a third of your commission. Like, I'm going to give you a great client, give me a third of your commission or 25% or whatever that is that you can negotiate. You're bringing value. You're bringing an introduction of a client who wants to buy the property. They're doing, most of the work, so to speak, right, to show it and list it, and take care of the client. But you're entitled to earning from that. So yeah, let's be involved the whole way through the process because we do our clients a great service, but we also, we can also earn a fee for doing that.
Okay, a question from Elizabeth. What is the biggest draw, fishing or snorkeling?
I would say it used to be fishing. I would say now it's diving and snorkeling because the fly fishing especially is kind of niche. They still have a lot of. I would say the number of fly fishermen on coming to Ambergris Caye has probably grown significantly. It might have I'll make up a number. If 20,000 fly fisher people came 30 years ago, it's probably 50,000 coming today. But the number of people coming to the island back then might have been just that number, right? Whereas today you've got hundreds of thousands of people coming. So snorkeling, diving, and just general water sports by sheer number of people is a much bigger draw than the fly fishing. But the fly fishing itself is still world class. People are still coming to do that. It's just that the other activities have now eclipsed the fly fishing as the main reason people come.
Okay, one more question from Christina. What is considered full ownership, like full deed on title?
Yeah,
And is
great.
it okay for foreigners?
Yeah. No, great question. I think a lot of times people look at something like, our Marriott residences as a timeshare, right? Oh, well, am I buying a week or a quarter share? What are you buying? And we are 100% full ownership. When you own one of our residences, you get title to it. It's fee simple title, it's strata title, right? Because it's a building, right? You own title to the airspace and an undivided interest in the land under the building, right? So it's strata title, but you own 100% of it. All 52 weeks are yours. It's titled to you or your family, your trust. I mean, that's the nice thing about Belize. That they allow ownership in IRAs, for example. Like an IRA can own it. Now you can't use it if it's in an IRA, but as an investment property, it can be used. It can be owned by an IRA. Trust, LLCs. Corporations, people, you can have a husband and wife, you can have family ownership. So Belize, because it's English common law, it's a very similar legal system to the United States. So it's very familiar. And the same ways that we can own a property in the US, we can also own one in Belize. But yes, it is title, it's full title. And the other thing about Belize that I really like is rule of law. They've got an incredible tradition, 250-year tradition, first as a British colony, now as a British Commonwealth since 1981. With rule of law, and if you're gonna invest, several $100,000 in a property, that's important, right? You want to know that the contract will be honored, and if you have issues, you can go to court and have them resolved in a legal and fair way. So yeah, Belize is great for that.
Okay. I think this last question from Sherry, could you give us an example of moderately priced investment opportunity, specifically a condo slash house that is currently on the market? Do you know any available properties that are on the water and cost associated?
Yeah. Again, moderate's a very subjective word, right? Moderate for someone in Orange County might be a lot of money. Moderate for somebody in, Council Bluffs, Iowa might be a lot less. I don't know what moderate is, but you can find properties on the water in Belize, on Ambergris Caye specifically, starting in the high 100s. It's typically older product, maybe 179, 189, I think just under 200. This would be an older product, maybe 20, 25-year-old buildings, but still in good shape. I mean, built out of concrete. Newer product. I mean, our Marriotts start at 350, right? And those are direct oceanfront. Will be open at the end of next year, so they're not done yet. Off the water, you can get properties starting in the low 100s, right? 120, 130, and that would be new construction. The only caveat I would say is that if I was personally buying something on Ambergris Caye or really anywhere in the tropics, I would buy only concrete. I would not buy wood frame. Wood frame construction is a lot cheaper, but it's a lot cheaper for a reason. It's concrete construction is definitely the way to go. You pay more, but it will last decades. Many decades. But again, Ambergris Caye would be a place you could get on the water for, say, just under 200. But there's product on the water that's 2 million as well, right? Big single family homes on the water for a couple $1 million. Off the water, 125, say, up to maybe 300 off the water kind of numbers. So.
Okay, one more question from Floor. Is there a problem selling it?
No, plenty of realtors. You can list with realtors. One of the problems, I hate to say the word problem, but I kind of think it is they don't really have an MLS. So you have to be careful with who you ask to list and represent your property, because typically, if realtors don't cross sell to other agencies. So you want to be looking at if you decide you want to sell it, who you list with. So you get the maximum exposure in the marketplace, because without an MLS, you don't get that. Not everybody's not going to see it, so to speak. So that would be a systemic problem in the real estate industry in Belize, but it's not unique to Belize. A lot of developing countries just simply don't have an MLS or a poorly functioning MLS. That's one of the assumptions, and that we kind of have to think through ourselves.
Okay, I think last question from Elizabeth. What is the average time the property stays on the market before it sells?
Wow. I actually don't know, Elizabeth. That's a great question. I think it's probably like the U.S. If the property's priced right, it moves fairly quickly. Properties that are priced out of market, above market, probably take a lot longer to move. I would say I don't know that it's generally any different from the U.S. On that particular factor, but specifically how long properties are on the market, I don't know the answer to that question. But if you want to email me, I will ask a few folks and try to get some answers for you. It's not going to be one answer, because it'll be different answers, but I'll try to get a range of answers for you if you want to shoot me an email.
And then I have a question. What is the average on the new property being built for the Marriott residence? What's the HOA dues for that?
That's a great question, and I don't even know the answer to that. But if you want to shoot me an email, I will definitely get you
Okay.
the answers on that. So please email me, and I'll make sure one of our property consultants provides those answers to you. That great question. Yeah,
Great, thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, sorry I don't know, but I don't
Um,
know. Too
Mike,
many things out there.
I have another last question
Yeah.
is it possible to Airbnb and then also how to property manage if somebody purchased a full title ownership and wants to lease it out during the interim or for short-term leasing?
Great question. Marriott does not allow that. And so if you're in the rental program with the Marriott, it must be in their rental management program. That's a very strict box, right? Other properties, for example, the Best Western or other properties on the island, a lot of people do Airbnb. And I think that the challenge right now is how do you create the awareness of your property to get the person down there, so to speak, right? It's going to be easier 3 years from now. It's going to be even easier, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now, it'll be a lot easier because, again, popular culture, people know it. If you're looking to Airbnb, lots of properties out there. One of the reasons we went with Marriott specifically. And by the way, our company is keeping 60% of the residences. We're only offering 40% of the residences for private sale because we want our company wants the cash flow from the rental of the 60% that we're going to keep, right? And we picked Marriott very specifically because they got 200 million Bonvoy members, right? They have the ability to put heads on beds. And that's really critical, right? For any kind of rental business, right? It really is about your heads on beds first and foremost. Second of all, it's the operator, and we've hired an operator called Highgate, and again, they operate about 800 hotels around the Caribbean and the U.S. So they're professional operators. So you get heads on beds from Marriott. You get a professional operating group to run the business, and then the owners themselves then get a very nice return on their investment. In fact, we have some data on that we can share individually. I can't publish it out like this, but I can certainly share that information specifically with anyone who would like to see it. But Airbnb is certainly a way to go for products other than Marriott. So anyway, both are out there.
Thank you for answering some of our questions. And if I guess
Yeah.
anyone has any further questions or referrals, contact Mr. Mike Cobb directly as he had his
Please.
email. Now, Feng, would you help us with our raffle prize? And then I know, Mike, you also have a raffle prize to give out as well,
Well,
too.
I do, but I don't have a way to generate the winner.
Oh,
But
you
what I'll
want them
do is
to send
every
them an email, right? To you.
Yep, everyone who sent the email to Realtor will get registered, and then I'm going to have Diego put it through his random picker, and then I will send you and them a note. So the winner will get a note that they've won, and I'll copy you as well, Christina.
Sounds great. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
And then, Feng, would you
Yes.
help us with the raffles?
Yeah.
And you were our first winner.
Lisa Yee.
Yes. Nancy,
Nancy Sharifi.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Feng, for your help. Thank you again, Mike, for joining us this year and providing so much information on Belize and I guess why we should look forward to other countries, whether it's in Central America or other countries for further investments. And thank you all for joining us for Belize Unlocked. Please contact Mike if you have further questions on Belize and the real estate purchasing processes. Reem, would you like to give us our next
Yes,
event,
please make sure that you come and join us for the next two events. Tomorrow is Go Global with CAR Chief Deputy Economist Oscar Way. That is going to be from 11:30 to 1:30 at the Mission Viejo Country Club, and lunch will be served. And then on Thursday, it's going to be Beyond the Beach, exploring Mexico's real estate, culture, and economy. That is on this Thursday from 10:30 to 12, and it will be as a webinar. See you all there. And thank you, Christina. And thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Fong and Mary, and thank you all attendees. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.